Hello, boys and ghouls. We'd like to wish you a very spooky day tomorrow, filled with a lot of treats and maybe just a few tricks.
Arrgh!
Speaking of tricks, Chef Jake has a few tricks up his sleeve that he'd like to share with us all so that we can spice up our game this holiday season.
Ahoy, mateys! Welcome to In Mom's Kitchen with Jake and Jana. Happy Halloween. Please excuse me. I'm wearing this iPad. I have to take it off. I would not last one day as a pirate.
That's too bad, because you're such a cute pirate.
Thank you. We've honestly gone through 15 takes. This is probably take number 16.
Getting a little hot wearing this witch's hat.
Bear with us here. Today we're going to be talking about finishing our last segment about spice blending. And at what better time than right now, because one very pleasant food memory that I have is every Halloween my mom would make her signature chili. And whenever I would smell cumin and chili powder, I knew that it was time to go trick-or-treating. So on our last segment about spices, what we're going to talk about today are some of those essential spices that you need to have in your cabinet. Because let's face it, spices and spice blending is a topic that we could cover for hours on end on this video. What we want to do today is really kind of give you a list of the top 10 spices that you should have in your pantry so you can have little building blocks to build up for the rest of your flavors. We also will show you some classification of spices. For instance, babe, did you know that there are different classifications of spices?
I mean, I know about sweet. And maybe sour.
There's also things like warm. Spices can be warm. Spices can also be cool, and a little sharp and pungent, all those different things. So we'll teach you a little bit about that. Another part about spice blending is that every cuisine type has their own type of spice blend. Whether it's Latin flavors, African flavors. We're going to kind of briefly touch on some of those, but with the top 10 spice lists we're going to give you today, you can build up on those flavor profiles and really create spice blends of your own. And what we did today, Mom, I'm sorry, we went into
Don't kill us.
Yeah, we went into Mom's spice cabinet, and of the top 10 spices that we have chosen to highlight, she's got 9 of them. So, Mom, you did great. We're really excited about that. We're going through, and we knew you would do really well. But these spices are all just what we said. They're spices. Now, I'm going to probably get in trouble with a lot of culinary professionals out there and a lot of home cooks. In our top 10 list, there are no dried herbs. I've never been a fan of cooking with dried herbs, whether it's dried oregano, dried basil, even dried rosemary. Those things, to me, the flavors just aren't natural and they don't mesh well with the type of food that I like to personally cook.
And that's something that I had to learn when I first got with Chef Jake, is I was accustomed to using a lot of dried herbs. So even in my spaghetti sauce, I would toss in Italian seasoning. And now he has said that I'm a really great home cook now, and I think it's because
your witch hat.
he has encouraged me to use a lot of fresh herbs in my cooking. So I don't really have a lot of dried herbs in my spice cabinet.
So, why use dried oregano when you can just throw a sprig of fresh oregano in there, or rosemary? You get that deep, hearty flavor from those herbs as opposed to using dried herbs. So again, she needs to smack me every time I use again. Everything that's on our top 10 list today is purely spices.
So stay tuned, and again, happy Halloween. We'll see you at the end.
Arrgh, walk the plank, matey.
This is the part about spice blending that I'm so passionate about, and what I love to teach when I do cooking classes about spices is introducing new cuisines and the spices that they use in their everyday blends. These are just a few examples of the hundreds and hundreds of different types of cuisines and the spices that they use. For instance, North African and their love of cardamom, cinnamon, and ras al hanout. Cajun with cayenne pepper, oregano, and Cajun seasoning. And Thai food with their cumin, garlic, turmeric, and curry powder. Not only can you elevate their style of food when you cook, but you can elevate your own as well. And here we have Mexican with their coriander, cumin, and cinnamon. Caribbean flavors with allspice, nutmeg, and ginger. And French with nutmeg, herbes de Provence, and garlic powder. How fun would it be to understanding these new spice blends and adding some Caribbean flavors to your everyday meatloaf or meatballs? It's a great way to really expand your repertoire in the kitchen and give your family some fun and exciting flavors that maybe they've never experienced before. And finally, one of my favorites, Indian food. Not only because of their love of spice and spice blending, but because that curry is not just or that yellow curry powder that we find in the grocery store. But curry, there are hundreds of different variations of curry out there, and by understanding these spice blends, you can really create some in-depth and fun flavors. And remember, when cooking with herbs, make sure you use fresh. Stay away from the dried herbs, but that's just my humble chef opinion.
Spices give aroma, color, flavor, and sometimes even texture to food. Each spice, chili, or herb has a specific, unique chemical compound that creates these sensual qualities. For example, when making apple pie, we want to use spices that match the feeling of what we're cooking, so we use warm spices like cinnamon and nutmeg. When we cook fish, we want the citrusy, cool flavors to match our ingredient. And when making enchiladas, we want to use spices that create the sensory feeling of spicy. Even casual cooks are likely to identify the 4 most well-known flavor profiles: bitter, salty, sour, and sweet. When talking about spices, a true spice aficionado simply cannot be limited to just 4 or 5. For these people, there are many more equally identifiable flavor characteristics such as cooling, earthy, floral, fruity, herbaceous, hot, floral, pungent, and spicy.
The first spice that we feel is an essential spice in your cabinet is cinnamon sticks. Not just cinnamon powder, but cinnamon sticks. The flavor profile is warm, earthy, nutty, and bittersweet, so they add a really nice warmth and texture to your food. They are great in curries and in stews. I love to throw them into soups and especially tomato sauces. They are just add a great depth of flavor to whatever you're cooking. Cinnamon sticks are great to add when you're cooking oatmeal or any warm breakfast cereal in the morning. Just throw a cinnamon stick in there, let that kind of really generate and develop its flavor. I love to drop a cinnamon stick in our bottle of maple syrup. It infuses just a hint of cinnamon. It's great on your pancakes or waffles in the morning. And finally, one of the best things about cinnamon sticks is they have the ability to bring out the natural flavor of any vegetable that you cook with. So for instance, one of my favorite combinations is cinnamon and carrots. And whenever I roast carrots with a whole cinnamon stick, it gives it such a complex flavor, peppery, sweet note, but it really emphasizes the natural flavor of the carrot.
The second spice on our list is cumin. The flavor profile is warm, earthy, spicy, and slightly pungent. Cumin is perfect for meat dishes. This spice is present in almost every cuisine type, such as Mexican, Indian, and African. It's best to buy the whole cumin seeds and toast and grind. Here's a little tip. Add a little to pasta sauce for great depth of flavor.
Ginger powder is the third spice on our list. One of my favorites as well, just like cinnamon, because it adds a lot of natural sweetness to almost every vegetable. Its flavor profile is sharp, slightly peppery, sweet, and also citrusy. So adding it to any spice blend that works well with fish is a recommendation of mine. I like to add ginger powder to most desserts as well. I think adding it to cookies, especially in things like custard and creme brulee, it will add a beautiful light citrusy flavor. It's great in any type of muffin mix that you have too. It adds a little bit of sharp sweetness to it. Ginger is also really, really great because it helps with natural indigestion. So you're not only helping cure that, but as you eat these foods with a little bit of ginger powder, it helps with that digestion.
The fourth spice on our list is sure to keep those vampires away. It's garlic powder with a strong, pungent, savory, and sweet flavor profile. If you're one of those quarantine bread making types, next time you're baking some bread, add a pinch of garlic powder to your dough. Garlic powder will really brighten up the flavor if you're following a low sodium diet. It's also wonderful on popcorn, roasted nuts, and pumpkin seeds. Try making your own garlic powder by roasting whole cloves and then dehydrating it.
Paprika is the fifth spice on our list. Its flavor profile is hot, sweet, and smoky. It is great on poultry, especially when you're cooking chicken. It's a must-have spice when you're using poultry, especially roasting it. In my opinion, paprika is a worker spice. it really elevates all the other spices that it's with. So for instance, if you put paprika in with your one pot wonder dishes in the Instapot or crock pot, the paprika will elevate the rest of the spices around it by carrying the spice throughout the course of the cooking process, really elevating all the rest of those other spices. It really is a worker spice. It is great in tenderizing meat. That's why it's so important to put in so many rubs as well as marinades, because it will help tenderize and really break down some of that connective tissue. It is an amazing spice if you want to add depth of flavor to any dish.
Number 6 is coriander. Coriander has a citrusy, spicy, earthy, and warm flavor profile. Coriander works wonders in marinades and dry rubs. Coriander seeds are a welcome addition to any slow roasting meats in the crock pot or pressure cooker. One of my favorite unconventional uses of toasted coriander is sprinkling over a fresh cut tomato. Also, try dusting a steak with some ground coriander before throwing it on the grill for a little burst of citrus. A little reminder, this is the spice that we toasted in our previous segment.
Our 7th spice is a spicy one. It's chili powder. The flavor profile for chili powder is warm, spicy, and pungent. And I also think it's a little bit on the sweet side, gives it a nice sweetness to it. Now, one thing that's different from other spices with chili powder is if you want to add a little bit of spice to your dish, but you don't want to make it hot, chili powder is my suggestion. It adds that deep little hint of spice that you want. My favorite thing to do with chili powder is actually an old Latin technique of mixing it with chocolate. I love adding chili powder to chocolate ice cream. It's amazing what it'll do. The chill from the ice cream along with a little bit of spice from the chili powder is a great dessert, and it's a great complement to make your dessert a little bit more interesting.
Our 8th spice is cayenne pepper. Cayenne has a spicy, hot, and pungent flavor profile. Now, the difference between spicy and hot, well, you can be spicy without being hot, but you can't be hot without being spicy. Cayenne has a ton of health benefits. It helps with inflammation. Now, if you also have a hard time consuming it with food, maybe try adding it to some tomato juice or Bloody Marys for you brunchers. This is the one spice I would recommend that you buy organic because it tends to be irradiated, which can kill the freshness of cayenne. Also, be careful when choosing your cayenne because different spice makers have varying degrees of hotness.
Our 9th spice is onion powder. Its flavor profile is it has a very strong aroma, slight, sweet, spicy, and pungent. Onion powder is very similar to garlic powder for adding depth of flavor to just about anything. It's also just like garlic powder in that it's very easy to make your own onion powder. I would recommend roasting your onions, getting a good caramelization, and then finishing them off in the food dehydrator and pulsing them in a grinder. Onion powder is really essential for ground meats like burgers and meatloaves, and you must have them in dry rubs to give them that really nice onion flavor. Also, in my experience, most people don't like the sharpness of a fresh onion, but onion is really one of the base flavors for great cooking, and so onion powder is a great substitute if you don't like that sharp biting of a raw onion.
And our last spice on Chef Jake's top 10 list of spices is nutmeg. Nutmeg has a woody, fresh, slightly sweet, and very aromatic flavor profile. Nutmeg is a wonderful addition to hot tea. Just drop in a whole clove of nutmeg into your tea as it steeps. Also, nutmeg is the most important spice in bechamel sauce, which is one of the 5 French mother sauces. We'll link our favorite recipe for bechamel sauce below. Interesting fact, nutmeg is a common ingredient in toothpaste. It helps to fight gingivitis. So, thanks, nutmeg.
Oh, the eye patch is back on. I'm getting excited for Halloween tomorrow. But thank you for joining us in our last episode about spices today. We hope that you learned a lot and that you're just as excited as we are about creating new spice blends and learning about new spices for different types of cuisine.
Now keep in mind, Chef Jake's top 10 list is just a start for
Right.
you guys so that you can start to build your own arsenal for your own spice cabinet and start building your very own spice blends. We're so excited to see what you guys come up with, so don't forget to tag us and comment, send us a little note so that we know what you guys are up to. And we want to leave you with a little to-do list. So, our favorite fall spice is pumpkin spice, and there are so many great uses for pumpkin pie spice. It's not just for pie. Did you know it would be great on yogurt and granola,
Yeah.
maybe even popcorn? What would you like to see it on?
I think it's great with vegetables, like especially with squash. So covering your acorn squash or butternut squash with a little bit of pumpkin spice blend, throwing it into the oven, not only letting those spices really develop, but it'll make your whole house smell just amazing.
And I think it would be really good on some pancakes or French toast.
In your hot chocolate, I mean,
Oh yeah, hot chocolate
so many
too.
different. We want you to start thinking outside of the box when it comes to traditional spice blends.
Not just pumpkin pie spice,
Exactly.
but all the spices.
Right.
So happy spicing.
Well, and finally, at the end of this segment, we're going to put up some recipes of some different spice blends that people are most familiar with. Taco spice, pumpkin spice, some of those things. And what we're going to do is we want to challenge you to try those spices and try them with different types of ingredients, different types of preparations, not just tacos or whatever.
Happy Halloween,
Oh, we need
folks.
to
We'll
go.
see you next time
Thank
on
you.
In Mom's Kitchen with Jake and Jana.